Well, thank you, Steve. That was a wonderful introduction. This conference is wonderful. It was great seeing some people here who we've been organizing against Roundup in New York City, and also other people who are fighting against the pesticide spraying all over New York City that was initiated under Rudolph Giuliani as mayor in New York. Then Mayor Bloomberg, another presidential candidate in the news lately, continued the spraying of all over New York City of malathion and pyrethroids to kill mosquitoes. And then it went on now under Mayor de Blasio, and it's continuing. I believe that the glyphosate aspect of that is going to be a subject of a hearing on Wednesday, tomorrow morning, and it looks like we're going to be able to kick out Roundup from New York City parks for the first time. We'll find out tomorrow, but we have a lot of city sponsors on the bill. So how does this go onto the screen over there? Okay. So thanks. So this is, I always start talks with Steve Biko, giving homage to those who came before us. Do people know who Steve Biko was? He was a South African anti-apartheid activist, the founder of the Black Consciousness movement there, who was thrown in prison in South Africa, chained to his cot, such as it was, tortured using cattle prods, electric cattle prods, sold to the South African government at that time by the United States government. And as the leader of the movement there, one of his great quotes was that the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And part of, let's think about that for a minute, please. Because one of the things about this talk, will be dealing with the mind of our minds and the minds of the oppressed and how we can break out of some of the formulaic ways of viewing the world and also of viewing our own resistance to it. So thank you, Steve Biko. So the fight against Monsanto's Roundup, the Politics of Pesticides, which is the name of my book, focuses not so much on examining the dangers of each and every pesticide du jour, but on the ways by which corporations such as Monsanto, Bayer, Dow, DuPont, Syngenta, Novartis, and other manufacturers of pesticides and pharmaceutical companies are allowed to mask the truth about their products. Question is, how is it conceivable that despite worldwide medical and environmental exposures of Monsanto's product, Roundup, its dangers and designation as a probable carcinogen, New York is still, under de Blasio, continuing to deploy Roundup to kill weeds, just as governments around the world continue to do everywhere? What the hell is wrong with them? And what can we do about it? And also to think about, I mentioned this last night, what do we mean by a weed to begin with? What do we mean by a pest to begin with? One person's weeds is another person's medicine, organic, natural plant medicine, to deal with many of the issues that we're facing today. So what is a weed? A dandelion is a weed, yet dandelion tree is great for the liver and for, so we're talking about reframing the way we think about things and questioning and not accepting what we take for granted, our hidden assumptions that we don't even think to question often. Good morning, Bob. Bob is a fellow WBAI volunteer, WBAI radio volunteer, who's helping you all get Gary Knowles and everyone else's premiums. So thank you, Bob. So each corporate polluter is over and over again seen as an exception or a bad apple in an otherwise benevolent system. Thus, we have arsenic begat DDT, DDT begat organophosphates, organophosphates begat pyrethroids, pyrethroids begat glyphosate, and now glyphosate begets dicamba. One after the other. We beat one, and they just come back with another one immediately. So part of my talk is to try for us to understand what we can do so that, because we just get rid of one and they just come back with another one, and we never break from this treadmill, the poison treadmill that we're all on. So for every environmental movement success in pressuring governments to ban this or that particularly egregious pesticide, the industry spits out a newer one, and the cycle begins again. So victories on individual pesticides are undermined by a methodology that examines each chemical in isolation from the others. Our job is to not see them as isolated, rotten apples in an otherwise wonderful barrel. Our movements need to go deeper, beyond the usual concerns about a particular chemical or corporation. If each expose is thought of as the exception, is what I was just saying, is thought of as the exception to the rule, then the system itself is assumed to be fundamentally stable and beneficial, except for those few. The system itself, though, is fundamentally unstable, unsustainable, and harmful. It generates an approach to nature and to human life in which corporate considerations, as evidenced by Monsanto's actions, are par for the course. And I mentioned, if you're following along the text there about golf courses, they're among the most leading abusers of pesticides. So using par for the course is my stupid attempt to bring humor into this horror that we're facing. I don't think it's okay if anyone gets cancer. Maybe it's okay if we get rid of them and throw them out, though. Yeah. So what is an effective strategy for us? We must grapple with the realization that we will never succeed in saving ourselves or our children and the environment by opposing one pesticide or one pipeline at a time. Considerations of more radical frameworks and actions is therefore essential if we are to build upon our limited victories.